There is a man I think about often when I am working. Not because he did what I do, but because he cared the way I care. His name was Wilson Bentley. Long before snowflakes were decorations, metaphors, or symbols of perfection, he stood alone in the cold trying to convince the world that something small and fleeting was worth paying attention to. He was born in 1865 in Jericho, Vermont, a quiet farm town with long winters and heavy snow. Bentley was not formally trained. He had no degree, no academic title, no institutional background. He was not part of a university, and he was not taught in a laboratory. What he had was curiosity and patience, and a willingness to stand still long enough to notice what others constantly overlooked. As a young boy, Bentley became fascinated with snow. Not storms, not drifts, individual snowflakes, the tiny structures that landed on his coat and vanished before most people even realized they were there. At that time, many believed snowflakes were simple and repetitive, decorative at best, identical bits of frozen water falling endlessly from the sky. But Bentley suspected otherwise. Suspicion alone was not enough, so he set out to prove it. His parents bought him a microscope as a teenager, and that changed everything. When he looked through at snowflakes for the first time, he saw something no one around him was talking about. Complexity, structure, pattern, variation. He realized snowflakes were not random. They were organized. And more importantly, they were unique. Bentley decided that if people could see what he was seeing, they would understand why snowflakes mattered. That decision shaped the rest of his life. Snowflake photography at the turn of the 20th century was unforgiving. There was no digital cameras, no instant preview, no safety net. Snowflakes melt quickly. Exposure times were long. Equipment was fragile. Every attempt had to be fast and precise. Bentley worked in freezing rooms to slow the melt. He photographed snowflakes on black velvet. He endlessly experimented with lighting, angles, and exposure. Many of his attempts failed. Thousands of snowflakes melted before he could capture them. Thousands shattered, thousands were lost, before the shutter ever clicked. And yet, he kept going. Not because it was efficient, because it mattered to him. Bentley was not chasing novelty, he was chasing understanding. He photographed snowflakes not once or twice, but for decades. Over his lifetime, he captured more than 5,000 snow crystal images. Each one required attention, care, speed, respect. He worked alone, in silence, in cold, year after year. Bentley was not trying to invent something new. He was trying to slow the world down long enough for people to notice what had always been there. One of Bentley's most famous statements was that no two snowflakes are alike. But when Bentley began saying it, it was not widely accepted. He proved it not with theory, but with evidence. Photograph after photograph, crystal after crystal, each one similar, but never the same. Bentley did not just document snowflakes, he elevated them. Bentley treated each one as a small masterpiece, a physical record of atmospheric conditions, a fleeting structure shaped by temperature, moisture, movement, and time. He understood that snowflakes were not decorations, they were information. Bentley shared his work widely. He published books, he gave lectures, he created magic lantern slides so people could see snowflakes projected large on walls and screens long before modern projection existed. These slides were not just entertainment, they were education. They were proof. What moves me most about Wilson Bentley is not just what he discovered, but how he lived with his curiosity. He never sought to become something he was not. He simply followed the thing that fascinated him and devoted himself fully to it. And he did all this without formal credentials. Because Bentley reminds us that meaningful work does not always come from institutions. It does not always come from titles or degrees or permissions. Sometimes it comes from devotion, from personal study, from time spent observing, from care repeated year after year. Bentley's authority came from attention, from showing up again and again, from loving something enough to stay with it even when no one was watching. Bentley passed away in 1931, but his work did not disappear. Scientists today still reference his images because they were that accurate and incredible. Educators still teach with them, artists still draw inspiration from them. His photographs continue to circulate more than a century later. Because snowflakes may melt, but careful work does not. When I think about Wilson Bentley, I think about patience. About standing in the cold knowing that most of what I tried to capture will probably vanish, and choosing to ride out the storm anyway. Because some things are worth noticing, even if they only exist for a moment.